From admiring Zion to building Zion is the title of this next section. Marcus Garvey remains one of the greatest leaders in the history of the African diaspora. He taught African people to reject the lie of inferiority, to build businesses, to educate their children, to organize their communities, and to take pride in their African heritage. He inspired millions to look towards Africa with hope rather than shame. His influence helped prepare the environment in which Rastafari would later emerge. We honor that contribution and thank God for the work he accomplished. At the same time, history reminds us that even great leaders remain human. During the Italian invasion of Ethiopia, Marcus publicly criticized His Imperial Majesty for leaving the country. Many people believed Ethiopia had been abandoned. However, Ethiopian military and government leaders were the ones that had actually urged the emperor to leave temporarily so that the legitimate Ethiopian government could continue operating and appeal before the League of Nations and preserve Ethiopia's sovereignty before the international community. Ethiopian representatives that were sent by His Majesty to America later visited Harlem and other African American communities to answer many of the accusations circulating abroad, explaining the circumstances surrounding Ethiopia's resistance and correcting misinformation concerning the emperor's actions during the war. We do not mention this to condemn Marcus, but we remember that the wisdom of the Proverbs 18:13, he that answereth a matter before he heareth it is a folly and shame unto him. The Bible reminds us that even God's greatest servants were not beyond error. Moses spoke uninformed. David, Peter, and many others required correction at different points in their life. Some people see Marcus as coming in the spirit power of Moses. Some people coming in the spirit power of John the Baptist. This is just them using the theological framework that I always emphasize on, which is spirit and power. The spirit and power of someone can operate through another being. This is not reincarnation. This is not resurrection. This is not regeneration. This is not incarnation or reincarnation. This is spirit and power. That's how it's described in the Bible. Now, some Rastafari have compared Marcus Garvey's role to the spirit and power of Moses, as I said. So whatever comparison that one adopts, Scripture teaches that every servant of God remains accountable to truth and humility. After Ethiopia's liberation, His Imperial Majesty looked towards greater future. Rather than dwelling upon the past disagreements, he believed that the relationship between Ethiopia and African diaspora should continue to grow through practical cooperation. Beginning long before Shashamene, a land grant that he gave in Ethiopia to African diaspora all over the world to live for free in Ethiopia. Long before that, Ethiopian representatives encouraged skilled people of the African descent to come and participate in the nation's development. Teachers, doctors, engineers, agriculture specialists, craftsmen, administrators, other professionals were invited to help strengthen Ethiopia. The opportunities for employment, transportation, and settlement were discussed. And Ethiopian nationality laws provided legal pathways through which qualified members of the African diaspora could become Ethiopian citizens with government approval. This also echoes Majesty's words during his Jamaica visit, where he acknowledged that many Jamaicans of African descent were blood brothers of the Ethiopian people whose ancestors had been carried away through the slave trade. His Majesty was not inviting people into a hopeless nation. He was inviting them into a nation that was expanding schools, modernizing the economy, strengthening Ethiopian airlines that he created, improving agriculture, developing industry, and preparing for the future. One of the greatest symbols of that invitation came in 1948 when approximately 500 acres of land at Shashamene were granted through the Ethiopian World Federation for the people of African descent who had supported Ethiopia during her years of struggle. So this is for all African people abroad. For Rastafari, Shashamene land grant that was created the same year Israel was created in 1947, showing us the symbolic reflection of Zion on earth, the order in Ethiopia through his governance over a physical Israel, or what we would call a physical or carnal geographical location that was once in Israel through the governance of David, through his order of righteousness. Now we see that order, and it has been shown through many nations, not just Ethiopia, but specifically in His Majesty's governance in Ethiopia. So Shashamene became much more than a piece of land. It became a living testament that Ethiopia's invitation was genuine. Yet Shashamene also teaches us an important spiritual lesson. Receiving land is not the same as building a community. Homes must be built, crops must be planted, children must be educated, neighbors must learn to live together. Communities must solve problems, work hard, remain faithful through difficulties. In the parable of the talents, Christ teaches that God's servants are judged not simply by what they receive, but by what they build, what has been entrusted to them. What they build with what has been entrusted to them. It is also noteworthy that For many Rastafari, this historical parallel continues profound and symbolic meaning. It reminds us that Zion is ultimately more than a geographical location. Throughout Scripture, Zion represents the order of God's kingdom, His righteous rule. Some historians have suggested that if larger numbers of trained professionals throughout the African diaspora had they accepted His Majesty's invitation to Ethiopia, Ethiopia's development might have unfolded differently. Whether or not we can know what history would have changed, the lessons remain valuable. God often places opportunities before His people, but opportunities require faith, preparation, and action. Some hesitate because of fear, others because of misinformation, propaganda, others because of the work appears too difficult. Throughout Scripture, God's blessings are often connected with those willing to leave their comfort, trust His calling, and begin building. Abraham left his homeland, Moses returned to Egypt, Nehemiah left the king's palace to rebuild Jerusalem, the apostles left their nets to build the church. His Imperial Majesty extended an invitation to help build Ethiopia. Today, Christ extends an even greater invitation to help build His kingdom wherever He has placed us. The question before every generation is the same. Will we simply admire God's work, or will we become faithful builders ourselves? This is section